welcome to the video. This one is all about monitoring university student attendance. Hey, if you're new around here, my name is Caroline. I'm a UK-based physics lecturer. So I work, I teach, and I research at a UK-based university. And this video is going out on the first day of the new semester. So I will be teaching. If you're watching this Monday morning, I'll be teaching later on this afternoon. And something that's new for me this year, and I think is something that's becoming more and more prevalent at universities, is the digital monitoring of students when they attend class. And it's an interesting topic, I thought. So I thought maybe I'd share what my university is doing, and then maybe we can have a bit of a conversation about it in the comment section. I've taught at my university now for a number of years, and I have never monitored lecture attendance. I've never kept a register. I've not logged who's walked into my lecture theatres. I can do it kind of by looking. I can see which students are regularly turning up, which students maybe aren't turning up, but I don't keep any formal log or record. The only class that I've kept a formal register for is my small group tutorials. So that's a class I teach where we do weekly problems, and that class is very small. I mean, there's only like 8 to 10 students in it. So it's quite obvious if a student is missing from that class, but that's the only one I've kept like a record of. Now, I know we keep a record of laboratory classes, so we do log who comes to laboratories, both for undergraduate and masters. But for big group seminars, for big lecture theatre teaching, I've not kept any formal records. And the university hasn't required me to. I've not been asked to keep any student log. That has all now changed. So this year, I am being asked to support student recorded attendance at lectures. How this is going to work in practice, and I'll be trying this for the first time this week for me personally, is before I give my class, I need to go on and I'll generate a one-time passcode. And now this is a code that I will then make available to the students who are in the room attending my lecture. It's a one-time passcode, so that particular code is only valid for that particular lecture class. And you can't use that code after an allotted time. So I think the code becomes available like a few minutes before class starts, and it expires shortly after class ends. So the idea being that you need to be in the class and attending the lecture in order to be able to access the code, in order to record your attendance as being present. Now, from a student perspective, obviously that's going to require students to go into a website or an app browser and to use the code and to log that they were there. And to make it easier for students then, some of the rooms have got, I guess they're called beacons or kind of digital transmitters in them. And that means that actually if you set the permissions on your app to track your location, then when you come into that lecture theatre, it will automatically connect to the hotspot, to the beacon, and it will log that you are attending class. So this is all new to me. I've not done this before. I am able to generate my codes in advance of the lectures. So I've been wondering how best to include this within my teaching. And I thought, do I show the code at the start of the lecture theatre and then not put them up again? Or do I show codes at the start and the end? So you have to be at the beginning of my lecture or the end of my lecture in order to get the codes. And what I've decided to do this week, or at least this beginning of this new semester, is rather than just showing the code at the beginning or the end of the lecture, I'm going to actually have it available throughout the whole time that I'm teaching. And so, if you're in class, you'll be able to see it whilst I'm giving my lecture. So if you forget to log on in the first 10-15 minutes of class, you can log in if you want to kind of midway through class, and you haven't got to make sure that you're either there at the start or the end. Because I did wonder about students coming in for the last 5 minutes of class quickly, just to try to get the code. Not that they would, because in the main students, the classes I teach are there for the whole duration, but it didn't feel quite right just having it at the start and at the end. Now, what I don't know is how distracting this is going to be. I think a lot of the lecture theatres that I'm teaching in will have the automatic recognition. So some students can automatically be recognised in their locations. That's fine. But I am going to have to allow time at the beginning of the lecture to remind students that they need to log on if they're doing it manually and to make sure they have registered their attendance using that unique code. And of course, this does therefore mean it's easier in some senses for students with access to a smartphone or a tablet to be able to register their attendance. There is a workaround, so I can log students manually. So if a student came up to me and said, I haven't got a phone, I haven't got a computer or a laptop with me, I need somebody to log my attendance, I can go into the system and I can record that they are present. So effectively, it's like taking a register, I guess, at the beginning of a lecture. But of course, I teach large classes. So if I'm doing that for many students, manually logging that they've come to the lecture class, that could take up a lot of my lecture time. And I am giving lectures in 50-minute blocks this year. Last year I taught in 2-hour blocks. I asked Central Timetabling this year if I could reduce down to 50-minute blocks. So I've got slightly more classes, but they're of shorter duration, because I think, based on student feedback, that would be a preferential method of teaching class. But of course, therefore, I need to be able to get to the lecture theatre and jump straight into the material. And this year in my lecture theatre classes, I'm also using demonstrations. So I'm going to be setting up demonstrations, setting up VIT, setting up the recording software to record class. And now I have the additional task to make sure students can log that they were present in the lecture. So it's one extra thing that I will now need to do. It's one extra thing that hopefully will be minimally disruptive, but potentially could become a little bit disruptive. I think that it's going to be really interesting to see how students engage with this software. I'm hoping it's going to be minimally disruptive. I think from colleagues who have trialled the software in the past that hopefully it doesn't need to be too intrusive on the lecture, and it is just a case of putting up this kind of one-time passcode, and students will quickly get used to registering their attendance or having their phone set so they can automatically be logged by the kind of the remote detection software when they walk in. How do I think students are going to react to it? I don't know. So I never took a register when I was a university student. I went to lectures and nobody ever ticked me off as attending the class. I mean, they did in laboratories. I think that was quite a safety thing as well, to make sure they knew who was in the laboratory class, but not in the main teaching lecture theatres. It allows the students to track how many of the classes they're going to. So, that's quite nice, I guess, if you want to see your own personal engagement. Maybe it might be a motivating factor if you've got really good engagement in all your classes to think, actually, I'm going to get out of bed to make sure I get to the next class so I can kind of tick off my attendance. I don't know how many students will try to trick the system. There's not really much benefit from trying to trick the system, because you're either in the lecture theatre or you're not, and it's up to the students really to make sure that they're attending class to get the maximum from it. I mean, yes, there might be some way around it where you could get your friend to carry your phone in to log that you're there, or there could be some like underground sharing of the passcode, the one-time codes. But the attendance record is really being used to help students monitor their engagement. And so I don't think there's any real benefit from trying to deceive the system in that sense, because it's really a tool for the students to be able to see how much they're engaging and attending the classes. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes for the first couple of weeks. If I find that it is really disruptive, I might only show these kind of codes at the beginning of and end of my lectures, so they're not there all the time. But I'm hoping that students will get quickly used to using them, and it doesn't become like a major thing within my lecture theatres classes, because there's just too much else to do to worry about having to get this system working on top of everything else. They have made provision as well that if you are covering somebody else's class, you can also, log into the software and get the various codes that you need. So they have, I think, thought through the system. It will just be the implementation of the system to see how I find it personally. But I'm intrigued. Are you at a university that monitors student attendance? Do you see who comes to your classes or not? As a student, would you like to be able to record your attendance and to be able to track personally how much you've been able to go to the classes? Or do you think it's something that's not necessary or not needed? When I was a student, I didn't feel it was something I needed to do. I went to class. I didn't need anybody to kind of tick me off a register to say that I was attending. So yeah, I'm very curious to know how other universities do it, because I think it's a bit of a growing trend. I think there's a bit of a growing trend to use these apps and digital software and platforms to help people log their engagement with a particular course, and to see how that impacts attendance on the course and performance on the course. I think obviously it's going to take a few years for the kind of the data to start to come out, but it's something new that I'm doing this semester. So let me know, is it something that you always do? Is it something that registering attendance that's new to you? Does this sound like a really good system to you? Does it sound like a really bad system? I can let you know in a few weeks' time how I'm finding it. But let me know in the comments. If you're teaching a class for the first time this week, all the best. Deep breath, it can be quite apprehensive when you're giving up that new class for the very first time or you're giving new material. So good luck with it. Enjoy it. Remember, we're meant to be having fun whilst we're giving these lectures. So have a good first week if it's your first week back teaching. If you're a student going to your first lectures, I hope they go really, really well. And as always, please do comment, leave your thoughts on this channel, hit the subscribe button. It's fab as we go into this new academic semester to be able to have these conversations, and let me know whether you would like to be registered as a student or whether you would want to keep a register as an academic. In the meantime, have a really good week, have a safe week, and I'll see you next Monday for another academic video. Bye.